Hey, I'm Colin with ModGolf. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel today. So I just finished up an awesome conversation for the ModGolf podcast, and that was with Hoyt McGarity, who is the president and CEO of 8 a.m. Golf. And we're not going to repeat that conversation because otherwise, why would you go back and listen to that great podcast episode that we just had? So going to bring Hoyt on here in a second. We're going to talk more about entrepreneurship. So if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in the golf space or not, you've got an idea, uh, whether it's already a product or a service, something you've created, or you're still kind of thinking about it, or somewhere in between. Having Hoyt here today, because not only is he going to talk about what 8 a.m. Golf does as companies that acquire awesome golf brands within their portfolio, but he is also a golf entrepreneur himself. In one of his companies was one of the ones that was acquired by 8 a.m. Golf, which is part of his origin story with the company. So as we get started here, 8 a.m. Golf, if you're not familiar with them, they are an integrated collection of brands with a shared mission of supporting and celebrating golfers and the golf industry. And they value the traditions of the sport while encouraging innovative practices and fun experiences to help it grow. And that fun word there is something we always talk about here on ModGolf. So innovation, entrepreneurship, all those good things. So with no further ado, let me bring Mr. Hoyt McGarity on the show. Hoyt, good to see you again. Thanks for joining me on ModGolf.
Thank you, Colin. Looking forward to continuing the chat here.
Good stuff. So as I mentioned, we took a deep dive into 8 a.m. Golf, but here, so people that are watching, if they haven't listened to the podcast already, why don't you give us a quick overview of what you do and why you do it with 8 a.m. Golf?
Yeah, absolutely. So 8 a.m. Golf's a holding company, right? So we have about 14 different operating golf brands underneath us, ranging from media to apps to hard goods to hospitality. I think we're pretty versed across the entire sport other than apparel, like we talked about. So, I spend my days looking at businesses to partner, to acquire, to merge, or anything else we can think of across all the different areas of the sport and globally as well. So I've got one of the best jobs I find in golf. I'm very excited about my job, and I love seeing new things and learning new things every day.
Nice. So as I mentioned, we're going to focus on your entrepreneurial journey, how you ended up as the president and CEO of 8 a.m. Golf, because originally one of your companies was acquired as one of the early ones in the early days of 8 a.m. Golf. So why don't you give us the backstory for people out there that are entrepreneurs to kind of hear your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I mean, you had to start somewhere, right? So I guess my experience was, as we talked about on the podcast a little bit, I started a company called TrueSpec Golf, which is a brand agnostic club fitting company. And I remember back, this was I think we sold our first clubs Memorial Day of 2014. I remember it. And so we stood up the company from pretty much January of 2014 and launched in Memorial Day, which was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I had some partner and some people. It was like a team of 3 to 4 when we started, and we had good backing. And I had to raise all the capital fairly quickly and get it off the ground. And honestly, it's the early days of any business, right? Like we did 15 different jobs, each of us, right? Like we fit the clubs, we had to build the clubs, and we had to ship the clubs, and we had to do the customer service and answer the phone. And it's funny to see it now where it's just quite a large business operating globally from when it was just us in a van or us in a build shop building the clubs, doing all the jobs. And I think it was just more of the hustle, right? Like we knew it would work. We had a lot of connections and getting into the right clubs, etc. Early days. And I think it was just, a passion for it. I mean, I loved fitting golf clubs, and I unfortunately don't do it anymore, although I still have that skill set in me. And I have a very different job today. But yeah, I had to start somewhere, and took a lot of hard work. And I think we sold it in February of 18. So pretty quick, right? So we caught the attention of a lot of people. We've had a couple of people actually poke around about the business early days. And then Howard Melstein, who's now my business partner, came in and bought all of TrueSpec Golf in February of 18. And then, the rest is history. But it wasn't to say it was easy. It was hard. And you got to put your head down and you got to go out and prove it, right? And if you do that, good things tend to happen. And in my case, I wouldn't say it's just lucky. I think that it was hard work and a little bit of luck, right? So
Nice. So for people out there, entrepreneurs thinking maybe they just spend all their time watching Shark Tank and they think that is how deals work and it just kind of happens and in a way you go, we know as entrepreneurs, sometimes it's well, not sometimes, it's a grind and there's ups and probably more downs than ups. But you told the backstory of how you met Howard Milstein and that whole experience. So share that story. I know you already told it, but it's such an awesome one. So I think this just helps kind of shine a light on how opportunities present themselves by not perhaps having this overarching goal of what you look at what you're going to do. Like you didn't, I'm sure didn't create TrueSpec of thinking we want to get acquired by a bigger company. We want this exit. You were just doing the thing that you loved and we're getting very good at that and scaling that and meeting people along the way. So kind of tell us that story of how you met Howard and how it ended up where you're sitting today.
yeah. I mean, look, it's an interesting story. So it had probably 2017. So we're probably 2, 3 years into TrueSpec at this point, and we
Mhm.
have stores in Miami, New York City, but we started with mobile units, right? That would go to all these clubs, and we were fortunate enough to get. I grew up in the Hamptons, as we talked about, and I caddied at every golf course. And when I went to raise the money, it was pretty much all the shareholders for TrueSpec were in the Hamptons, right? And there's two sides of this. I think I raised the money. They probably in their mind wrote off this money, thinking they're just doing me a favor at the time.
Right.
And that turned out to be a great investment for them. And now they owe me for that. So I'm happy. But when we started to get into it, it wasn't me that fit Howard. It was another fitter of us, Andy, who works for us still today and was one of the first employees out of Miami. And he gave a great experience. He fit Howard at Sabonic in the Hamptons on the range. Howard just came to get some fairway woods. I think it was like a 3-wood and a 5-wood. And I know everyone in the Hamptons. I've never met Howard, right? And so he fed him. He bought the clubs. He picked up yardage. We kind of had great customer service. We delivered the clubs on time. Like we ticked every box, which you'd like to think as a company you do every time. But as you know, sometimes it can get tricky. And we just happened to tick all the boxes. And then Howard was like, man, that was incredible. Not only did and then he hit the clubs and they were like, changed his game. By the way, he ended up with a 4-wood and a 7-wood because there's no business for him to hit a 3-wood at the time. So it was like, it just helped him. And then he hit a shot and he was like, not only do the clubs work for him, he thought as a business person, which Howard is, it's just the experience, right? Like, I guess from how Andy did that day, all the way to the delivery of the clubs and then the performance of the clubs matching his expectations. I think we just ticked every box. And at that point, Howard called some pros and said, I need to speak to this gentleman that runs this company. And it was about Mirror Golf. And at the time, I thought he just wanted to buy a set of Mirror golf clubs. Like, I'm thinking to myself, no problem. I'll sell him a set of mirrors, right? And then when I got on the call, it was a conference call, like dial-in number. And I was like, this is weird. There's 5 people on this call. And then I realized quick he was trying to buy the entire company, not a set of golf clubs. So
Right.
I gave him my honest opinion. I think till this day, we have an amazing relationship based on that first phone call that he asked me a couple of things. And I was just dead honest with my opinion. And I stood behind my opinion. And I think that directness I had with him, he appreciated. Like I was very direct. What is a good idea? What is a bad idea? And I think that day I started to work for him. Like he didn't acquire a business yet, but at that point he was like, we had a connection. He ended up buying 20% of TrueSpec Golf, which at the time we didn't really need, right? Because we had all these shareholders. But he was strategic because he had the Nicholas companies and Golf Logics. And then within 5 months of that, he bought the entire company. And the thing is that we, like you said before, we weren't looking to sell. Actually, I didn't even think about it, right?
Right.
But then as a young entrepreneur and someone who started a business and the grind of that, and the shareholders that I are friendly with, that are very influential people themselves in the Hamptons, I was like, man, I can make them real money. Like, not only do I get to do okay, I get to do right by everyone who backed me. And that's probably more important than any of it, right? So I was like, we should sell this business. I do right by all these great people to this day that will back me up on any investment because I did right by them. And that was more important than the money I was going to make or any of the details. It was doing right by the people that backed you. And I'll never forget those people for it, because without them, I wouldn't be here and I would have never met Howard. And honestly, and that's why I referenced in the podcast Rick Hartman, the head pro at Atlantic. Like,
Right.
he was a huge factor of the success. Not only was he an investor in TrueSpec, he was a part of the success and us getting to sell it. And, if that's the story. And obviously now my life has changed, and, arguably probably have one of the, in my opinion, the greatest jobs in golf. I love what I do every day. I love working for Howard. He's an incredible person. He's so smart. I mean, he's a not only does he own one of the largest private owned banks, he's a real estate guy. He's so smart. So I speak to him on every day, and I'm learning a ton. And he's like a mentor, a father as well. So he's really taken me under his wing from even outside of golf, like in other divisions of the bank.
Right.
Who would have thought, right? Fitting clubs to working at a bank. So,
well, amazing. Well, you just never know where the entrepreneurial journey is going to take you. It is not a straight line. There's ups and downs. And as you keep turning stones over, you never know what's going to reveal themselves. And that's why you just kept in life, you just have to keep moving forward here. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck. This ties into one of my next questions to help entrepreneurs that are watching here today, of getting too tied to an idea, not knowing when to let it go, taking it too personal. This is their baby, and they don't want anybody to tell them that their baby needs maybe their baby's ugly, or maybe their baby just needs a new set of clothes. Maybe need to tweak it and refine it a little bit. I want to ask you this, because some of the characteristics that I think Howard saw in you and the business with TrueSpec of why he wanted to invest. He believed in you. He saw the high level of experience that you talked about in the podcast that now permeates through all the events that you do, all the experiences, that everything, like Steve Jobs always said with Apple, everything has to be at that high level. If one thing falls off in the experience, whether it's packaging or someone talking in the store, to get back up to that level is very difficult to do. So you have to be all the way through of that experiential touch points and those journeys. And it sounds like that is very, very important for you and 8am Golf. So can you tell us, based on what you said with your own experience with Howard, now that you are vetting and bringing in and reviewing companies, what are you looking for in the founder or founders, and the opportunity, or what the product or the service actually has, and what stage they're at? So really those three things, or any other criteria that you're looking for to even get through that first level of vetting, because I'm sure you get thousands a week, if not more, to look at.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that, we get a tremendous amount of inbound investments, you can imagine, ranging from all sizes and every business within the sport. But I think it comes down to one really easy thing for me, maybe because I like to think I'm a people person. That's probably one of my main skill sets here. And, I'm definitely not a numbers person. Like, I have great people around me, also owned by a bank. Helps when you have financial people, all which, I've come a long way in that area.
Yeah.
But I look at the people. It comes down to me, the other side of that meeting. Who am I speaking to? Do they have it or do they not? And my instincts there tends to be pretty good with like people skills. Like, I really pay attention. I don't care about your resume. I don't care where you went to college. These things help a little bit. But is the person capable of pulling it off? Do they show passion? Do they have a lot of love for it? Like, it's hard to build a business, right? Now, there's also people that have that passion and build business, and the business is not good at all. So it's like, if the person is a great person and they are doing 70% of it correctly, and they're just missing a few things, you could see through that quick, and you know how you can help them, right? They don't have to be perfect, but if the person isn't intriguing enough or doesn't have within their business, if they're not experts on the questions we're asking, then they're probably not going to get to the next phase, right? With me, at least. And if you can answer all that, and even if your business is suffering a little bit, this is where we help get you back on track. Be you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing at this, and let us help you here in these weak points, or find you the right people to help. So honestly, we see so many, and I always look at the people running it, and I wouldn't have the success we have at 8am if we didn't have 14 amazing operators at each one of our businesses. Like, I mean, how could you succeed without having great people?
But I
Yeah,
agree
every
completely.
day, that's it. And of course, it doesn't hurt if the business is making really good money and has a great person, then it's a home run. But just because you make up money, that doesn't always mean it's the best thing for us to buy, right? Because I want to
Yes,
know the person, is he just trying to sell it to get out, or is she trying to be someone more after? Like, what's your long-term goal?
right.
Then sell and cut loose, or do you really need a business? Do you really need a partner? Like, what do you really want is kind of, I don't want to just buy. We're not a PE firm where we're just going to buy 20-30% of your business and then trade it and then, not do anything but ask for financials. Like, we're pretty hands-on. So if you can't handle us, we're probably not getting to the next step either, right? 'Cause our group's we're operators. So we
Right.
like to be hands-on.
So you must get a lot of people that are approaching you thinking you are an investment firm, you're a VC in the golf space and are just looking for money. And you talked about with TrueSpec, you had a sustainable business model, you had growth, you already had other investors through people that you knew, that you had already established a relationship with, that you weren't looking for money. And I've heard that quite a bit in my work in the startup and in founder space. Seen that so many times, that old adage that if you're asking for money, you'll get advice. And if you're just asking for advice and some help, sometimes you'll end up getting money. And seems like in your case there with TrueSpec, you were not actually looking for investment, but it just turned out that Howard looked at where you were with the business and their trajectory, and he liked the fit. So you can talk a bit about that with entrepreneurs as cautionary tales of what they should or should not talk about. Because I've seen that quite often too, that they get too caught up or that they're looking for the money rather than the partnership or the help. So what do you see that sometimes kind of you see something that's good and then you get turned off very quickly because the founder or founders are aligning themselves in the wrong way?
Yeah, I mean, look, from an 8 a.m. perspective, we tend to not do venture. We see a
Mm,
ton of it, right? I mean, look, if you go back to the origin, we're owned by a very large private bank. They like cash flow. There's certain things. I'm not suggesting that we like it because we like to overpay. I'm just saying that once you start making money, that's where we add the most value, right? Like, it could be 100 grand a year, it could be 10 million a year, right? Like, but once you have that positive cash flow, it's very attractive to us to come in not only as a bank, but also as a group that owns a ton of golf businesses. Where we tend to see in golf, we see a lot of venture, and we're just, not that we don't have a venture arm, but we don't do startups as easy unless they're in-house, right? Like, it's hard for us to say, I'm going to give X dollars to this group that's losing all this money. And then, because we're very busy, then all of our bandwidth will go to that group. Now, there's other venture groups that are amazing at this and can help you. 8 a.m. is much more like the group that wants to take the next step, right? Like, hey, we're making $1 million a year, $2 million a year. You're doing great. And you're like, but how do I get from 2 to 10? That is not that simple. And that's where 8 a.m. I think excels, where it's like, all right, we'll partner with you. This is how we're going to do it. And between all of our assets, we should rise together. And that's kind of what we look at. We look at the most, right? And it's hard to raise cash. I mean, I had to do it. That's why it was so important for me to do right by them.
right.
There's no better feeling other than making some money yourself. But if you pay back your investors and you make them a multiple on it, I mean, I don't know a person that would say a bad thing about you if they invested in you, right? Like, you
Yeah.
didn't fail them, and reputation goes. To me, that's like the best feeling.
Nice. Nice. Well, so everybody understands, if you're an entrepreneur in the golf space, it's like I have to talk to Hoyt right away. Yeah, if you're at that early stage, either the ideation stage, or we call about your technical readiness level is not in market yet, your investment or acquisition profile or thesis is you're looking for companies that are already in market, that have annual recurring revenue, that you're already at least an early growth company. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and doesn't mean, like, I spend a lot of time on the phone with entrepreneurs or people not in that step. I'm happy to speak to them. I'm happy to tell them my experiences and what maybe you should try. I've also looked at every business in the world in golf, so I know the good and the bad, and I know not what you should not do, right? So like I do spend a lot of time on the phone, even if we can invest. It's just hard. Like I said to you, like you can't buy 1,000 golf companies a year. So you're saying no a lot. And something I had to get used to because man, it's tough to say no because you might even like the business. It might not fit our portfolio, it might not be the right deal for us. That doesn't mean you're not going to succeed or crush. Don't listen to me. I had a lot of people turn me down early days. So like I would go with your instinct. Now, I also would know how do you be polite if it's a really bad idea.
Right.
Had those conversations too, and I had to explain, like, think about it, like, here's 10 examples why, and they're like, okay, I get it, you know. So, but that doesn't mean I should you should give up. I just don't. I'd hate to see someone spend it too long. That's just not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we'd like to see businesses. If you're out there, if you're not even making money, but you have the revenue and you need to get to, you're like, this is where we're really good, right? We'd love to have that conversation with you, or anyone out there globally, by the way, not just here in North America, but like we've invested and we have some new things to announce, and you'll hear about them coming, and they're very exciting and they're very big and they're global. So we have more in the pipeline, and you know, I don't know, I just if you think about the 4 or 5 years. I don't know many groups that have been growing or are busier than 8 a.m. golf, and we're just getting on the radar. It's kind of funny. Like, it's not like we're, you always hear about the Troon Golfs and the Club Corps and all the big ones. And I get it. They manage a bunch of golf courses. But it's like we kind of seem to fly under the radar, or Howard does. And no one has spent more money and time and energy in the sport over the last 5 years than that gentleman. Like, and it's impressive. Like, he's totally committed. And I'm so happy to have him as a partner and be on his team.
I love the trajectory that 8 a.m. golf is on, and to the point of no one really knowing who you are. I'm at the cold face of golf, technology, entertainment, entrepreneurship. I had never heard about you guys until a couple of months ago, until I was introduced. So the fact, like I said, you started as a holding company, the kind of the vision of the company, the way you've just, I wouldn't even say morph, but the way it's just evolved, I guess is the best way to put it, is quite exciting. And you said you don't really work on startups, but there are exceptions, because with startups, you want to make sure you're in business ventures that are de-risked as much as possible, and that depends on partnerships sometimes. And yeah, this gentleman on the far right there, you've got someone there that everybody knows that probably helps de-risk some of the startups that he brings to the table. So yeah, why don't you talk about the couple of things that Justin has brought to the table in partnership with you, and some of the assets and companies that are within the portfolio now at 8 a.m. Golf.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say Justin's been amazing with us since I think this happened in 2019. So we talked a little bit on the pod, and you can find out more over there. But Justin and I had a relationship for 4 or 5 years. Played a lot of golf, gets fit at True Spec. An amazing guy. This guy loves golf, and he's an amazing person, right? And you can imagine how many opportunities Justin got presented to him within the sport of golf, right? So he didn't know. He was like, he wanted to support businesses and make investments, but it's not his job, right, to know all these details of what money, where would you put your money? And he came to me and his group in 2019 and said, what if I came in at 8 a.m., like into the holding company, and invested and did the whole thing, which it had to be an investment. And then we would use him on particular things. Like, he owns all of our businesses with us because he's an investor side by side. But some he's more public than he is in others, because he can bring value here and he's not going to bring value over here, right? So he's smart to know, and we kind of go with what he likes in the sport. Like us going into T Squared or into hospitality has a lot to do with our partner, right? The 8 a.m. Invitational in Vegas, like he really wanted the masters of celebrity events and not on television. One that you could feel comfortable, have a great time, own the cameras that are on you. It's not live. You're not going to turn into a meme on the internet because you hit a bad shot. Like, he was very particular on everything, and the guy knows how to do it. Like, I get calls from him all time on amazing ideas and different things to try. And obviously he's on a world tour right now, so he's quite busy, but he still has time for 8 a.m. golf. And we're building a golf course together in Nashville. I mean, who would ever thought? Now we're actually owning and building our own golf course with him, which is like the ultimate dream, to own your own golf course. Who I would have never have thought that Bounty Club, and we're in full construction. We open next summer, and I'm actually going there with Justin December 12th because he has his concert there. We're gonna go there and take a tour of all the construction, everything we got going. But yeah, he's hands-on across the board and just a great guy. And obviously he opened up 8 a.m. as a brand because, again, it was meant to be a holding company and it's turned into something more, and has a lot to do with him.
Love this. Love this. But hey, why don't we finish up there? Because, like I said, I want to encourage our viewers here to listen to the podcast episode that we had, the extended conversation where we really dig into all of the other ventures that you're involved with. And as I scroll through here, you can see there's, what did you say, 14 in total that you've got there. So yeah, rather than, we went through pretty much one by one, all of those on the podcast. So yeah, why don't we kind of leave it at that with talking about all the good things that 8 a.m. is doing. We talked about the future of your thoughts. You did some crystal ball gazing of where you think the future of golf entertainment and innovation is going to go. So yeah, once again, in the comments below, I will leave for everyone there that they can just click on that and they can go back to the podcast that Hoyt and I recorded just a little bit earlier, because that was an awesome conversation also. So hey, why don't we leave it at that? Hoyt, thanks for sharing kind of some nuggets of wisdom and some insights here for entrepreneurs out there of your personal experience, what you're doing on the other side of the desk now of vetting and talking to entrepreneurs about their ventures and bringing some on board there with 8 a.m. Golf. So ultimately, hey, why don't we leave it at that? And I want to thank you again for your time and joining me on the ModGolf YouTube channel.
No, I appreciate you having me. That was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see it come out. It's gonna be
Good
great
stuff. All right, have a great day. We'll talk again very soon.
Thank you so much.